The DSM-5 is a directory of all known and proven psychological illnesses and phobias, one of which is automatonophobia, or the irrational fear of robotic sentient beings that resemble a human or other living creature such as an animal. If you watched our video discussing the lore of the first game, you probably knew that already. But indie gaming's scariest story fools around with more than what's just going on inside your head. Part of the reason why these games have garnered such a reputation of being the most frightening games on the market isn't because of the heart attack-inducing death screens or even its backstory, but the anticipation of waiting 6 hours a night, or about 8 minutes in real time, for the jump scare that will end your level's progress and send you back to the beginning. When you turn down the lights and immerse yourself into the atmosphere, it can make for a busy and intense game of robotic hide and seek. And while you can definitely feel the tension in the building, there's a looming presence that makes the game even scarier to play. We've ventured into the facility of Fazbear's Pizza in search of a serial killer, bitten through the evidence of the bite of 1987, and have been a merciless subject to a gang of child-friendly drones turned to the haunted iron predators we know and love today. In efforts to bring you a completely genuine storytelling, we will refrain from any other fan theories you may be familiar with, and just focus on the events of the third game. It's been 3 decades since Freddy Fazbear's Pizza closed its doors to the public and became nothing more than a memory. In light of the facility's dark story, a team of workers have dreamt of establishing a new horror attraction where scare fanatics can relive the animatronic terrors of the original restaurant. This team carries out their search like archaeologists, uncovering artifacts and objects in the original location that may be of use to preserving the legacy of the restaurant, and of course they'll find a way to include it in the act if it's frightening enough to other patrons. Out of all the objects they found, however, their recovery of an actual spring-operated animatronic proved to be the most impressive. Fans have called him by the names Hybrid Bonnie, Golden Bonnie, and even the phone guy refers to him as Spring Bonnie in the final night, but he prefers to be called Springtrap. The animatronic earned its name after the horrible incident that occurred when a murderer of 5 children attempted to tamper with the animatronics. The spirits inside those suits were disturbed and awakened. When hiding inside the Springtrap suit, the springs locked up, trapping him inside and killing him. How was such a deadly and terrorizing piece of equipment salvaged from the building? Well, the team did have some help after all. Some very valuable help from one of the attraction's lead designers.
Some guy who helped design one of the buildings says it was like an extra room that got boarded up, or something like that.
Springtrap's discovery behind this extra room yields a plentiful list of results, but is not found and brought to the attraction until the second night. It's the reason no animatronics are active on the first night, making it the only level in the entire trilogy impossible to lose. Because of the more convoluted control scheme, players assume this first night is an introductory level to get you used to all of the equipment you'll be using. This might also have something to do with the first level showing green-colored text, insinuating a feeling of safety for the night. That seems strange. If only one animatronic was recovered from the building, that still leaves some unanswered questions. 6 to be exact. There are still many more animatronics that can slip through to your office. The important question is, which ones can pose a real danger, and which ones are only shadows?
The most important thing you want to watch for is the ventilation. Look, this place will give you the spooks, man, and if you let that ventilation go offline, then you'll start seeing some crazy stuff, man.
Ah, so that's our answer. Our favorite pals from the previous games have returned to the scene, only in a more hallucinatory fashion. Though Springtrap is the only animatronic in the game that can end the night, other phantom animatronics can cause hallucinations, fading vision, and will disable your ventilation system by screaming into your monitor. Some of the most unsettling hallucinations include several Springtrap animatronics roaming the facility, all seeming to be looking for you. You're given no clue on identifying the real Springtrap, so unless you have the radar cheat active while playing, your guess is as good as anyone else's, and they're very difficult to get rid of. There are 3 endings that conclude the final night. The bad ending is the one most will likely achieve after their first playthrough. The heads of the 5 base animatronics are resting on a wooden floor. In the good ending, there seems to be an animatronic missing from the back, but this could be debated seeing as how the only visible feature in the bad ending image are a pair of emissive glowing eyes in the back. Playing all of the hidden minigames will net you the good ending, and the conclusion can be easily drawn that the good ending wraps up the story with the angry, vengeful spirits that inhabit the costumes finally finding peace and are able to transcend their current form. The neutral ending, however, is a bit more ambiguous. The neutral ending shows the player a newspaper clipping, with the main story telling of how the horror attraction burned to the ground due to faulty wiring. I guess the guy on the phone wasn't kidding when he said fire was a real risk. But if one is to brighten the screen just a little more, you can see a faded picture of Springtrap hiding in the background, telling us that he likely got hauled away to an auction booth, with the rest of the equipment that survived. Similar to the rare occurrences in the first game, such as the Golden Freddy poster and the Eyeless Bonnie screens, we're seeing some of those instances in the third game as well. No triggers are known to evoke these images, but they do happen from time to time. One image you've probably seen is Springtrap holding his mouth opened and tossing his head back, which in itself is rare because Springtrap commonly approaches the player almost always with his mouth narrowed into a sinister grimace. Why is this important, and why is it so hard to catch Springtrap with his mouth open? Look closer. There is subtle evidence of human remains inside the suit, implying not only previous usage, but abuse and tragedy. The thing is, Golden Freddy and Springtrap share a few similarities. For instance, they're the only 2 animatronics that can be doubled as wearable uniforms for guards to patrol around in and be a part of the fun. Sounds delightful. On top of being prone to deadly malfunction, these suits were taken off the shelf very quickly after an unnamed individual attempted to worm his way inside, even after numerous announcements were made invalidating the safety of these suits.
Management has also been made aware that the Spring Bonnie animatronic has been noticeably moved and would like to remind employees that this costume is not safe to wear under any circumstances.
We see the aftermath of this person's negligence of the safety rules in a horrifying retrographic death that spells the end for our mischievous purple friend. Immediately after the tragedy, you get a final phone call in the nightmare level, alerting you that the Golden Bonnie suit has been hidden behind a false wall. The same wall the man on the phone tells us about in Night 1 before the recovery of Springtrap, Fazbear Fright's greatest addition to their attraction. Right behind a wall and into another building 30 years later, the body of the killer was never removed from the springs of the suit, possibly because many workers deemed it far too dangerous to even touch the costume. As a result, you can occasionally see a fleshy underwall of remains hidden beneath Springtrap's endoskeleton. And get this, whether you know it or not, you witnessed the murderer's death. That's right, you saw the whole thing happen. Not in the minigame, in the actual game itself, as the opening trailer zooms in feverishly on a malfunctioning Golden Bonnie, in the exact same sitting position as the suit in the minigame cutscene. Now that's creepy. Now that we've clocked in just over 2 weeks of work in total at the Fazbear facilities, I'd say we're a pretty experienced bunch by now. Right now, however, all we can do is stare at our screens in a mesmerized state, in hopes that the 4th and final chapter will bring us an even more terrifying quest. Until next time.